Okay, folks, in this section of the course, we're going to start diving into JDL, JHipster's domain language. And this is what we use to generate entities and all the associated views that go with those entities. So it's not only going to generate the JPA classes for us inside of Spring, it's also going to generate controllers and all the associated angular.js and stuff to go with it. So it's all domain based. So when JHipster sees those domains, it's going to go out there and create everything for us. And I'm going to show you that in this section. We'll get our feet wet looking at the JDL language, and then I'll show you how that's used to generate tables and all the infrastructure that goes with those tables. Okay, jumping over to my desktop, the first thing I want to do is take a look at the JHipster documentation. You can find this online. We'll leave it in the show notes where you can see this example of using JDL. And I just want to go through this example. What JHipster, what the team has done is they've given us this Oracle HR or human resource sample application that they've translated into JDL. And we're going to be working with that. And I just want to point out some of the simplicity of that. So, like I said, JDL is a JSON-like syntax, but it is its own domain language, so it has its own rules. And JHipster has documentation about it, and we can step through that one at a time, but effectively what it's going to do is describe what's going to become JPA classes for us. So let's jump over and we're going to take a look at the full example here inside of IntelliJ. And this is the HR example that JHipster provides. And we can see that what's going on here on line 1, it declares an entity called department. And then it has two properties, department ID of long and department name, a string. And we're also saying required there, so we can set up constraints inside of JDL. Next on line 6 is another entity, job history, and that's got a start date, end date, and we're using zone, date, and time. These are different data properties. Now we can see how these entities are going to have relationships. So I just scroll down a little bit in line 59. This is where we're defining the relationships between the entities. And everything that you can do inside of JPA, you can do inside of the JHipster domain language. It's just a matter of specifying the right syntax for it. And then this is going to be used to generate the JPA classes. So let's go through and take a look at how we do that generation. And what we need to do is we need to install the JHipster subgenerator. And to do this, you can see I have it up here on the screen. We need to run an npm install -g for global JHipster UML. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. And I'm going to jump over to the command line now. And just going to double check that. JHipster-UML, JHipster. So let's go ahead and see how that goes. And we can see that npm is doing its things, installed everything. Now the next thing we want to do, we're going to do clear. This is a trick to get back to the top of the line. Now what we want to do is this JHipster import JDL. We're going to do yo JHipster, and that was HR tables. I did call it HR tables, right? Yep. So the command is yo JHipster : import JDL, and then the file name. And hitting enter. Nope, can't find it. And it wasn't clear. Let's do this. See where we're at. And that's going to be in source main, so let's try dot for the current directory, src/main/scripts. Nope, spell scripts right. And I still didn't spell that directory correctly, so do that. Now we can see that JHipster went through and it's going to ask, do we want to override some things? I'm going to just say yes. Yes to that. And we see that JHipster's gone and ran. And now we can see that it created a bunch of stuff. So let's jump over to IntelliJ now and take a look and see what all got generated. So here we are in IntelliJ, and just to refresh you, this is the HR table. So we're asking like department, job history, employee, location. So all these are going to be tables that are going to get created. So let's take a look at the first thing, and we can see here these files are in red because they haven't been added to Git yet. These are all the things that I created. So let's take a look at department. So we can see here department should have department ID and a required for string. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. And we can see that this is a code that JHipster generated for us. So this is all generated code for us. Let's take a look at one with a relationship. So we had a relationship of department to job history. So let's take a look at job history. So you can see the relationships there. There's department. So it set up a one-to-one relationship for us for that. So we can see how the JDL language is actually creating the relationships in JPA for us. So I haven't touched anything here. This is all code that was generated for us. And it's typical JPA classes that we're going to use to build that up. Now, there's a lot more that got changed here for us by JHipster. Let's take a look at some of that now. So we can see that I created an employee service. Also set up repositories for all the entities. And let's take a look at version control. And these are all in version files. Expand this out for you. So we had 8 domain classes created, 8 repositories created, 3 services, mappers, DTOs, data transfer objects. Now we got the resources set up. And also, so this is all Java classes on the Spring side, but it's also generating stuff for us on the web side as well. So it's generated web assets, all the JavaScript files and HTML files that we need to work with, all the JavaScript files and HTML files that we need to work with for AngularJS and the front end to do its thing as far as displaying the data. Okay, now at this point in the course, you've already been exposed to all the things that JHipster is doing for us. Here with the JDL portion, I wanted to show you what JHipster is generating. So the JDL language is a descriptive language for JPA classes effectively. So JHipster is going to generate JPA domain objects for us, but it's also going to generate all the other scaffolding coding that we need. So it's going to generate repositories, it's going to generate controllers, it's going to generate all the stuff on the AngularJS front end side as well. And what I like to do with this in the early stages of the project, I'm going to model my domain model using JDL and set things up and allow that to evolve. And I'll pull up the application, try it out, and then go, I want to change this or that. And I go into the JDL, make the changes in the JDL, and then tell JHipster to regenerate everything. So that saves me a tremendous amount of time. I can quickly model things and try things out and interact with my end users as well and say, hey, here's a quick CRUD application to demonstrate these concepts. How do you like it? And a lot of times I get feedback from the user saying, hey, I'd like to add this. Can we add this or that? And now I'll go back into the JDL code again, make those modifications, and regenerate everything. So this is a tremendous time saver in the early stages of the project where you're not customizing the front end code. All that can be generated. That's all template stuff. But if your model's evolving and changing and your requirements are changing, this is a great way to allow JHipster to do a lot of the heavy lifting and a lot of the mundane tasks so you don't have to do it.